Let's give it, say, 20 seconds.
It's the final countdown. Doo-doo-doo-doo.
Maria, tilt your camera down a little bit because, again, we can just kind of see the top of your face.
There you go.
Perfect.
Seconds.
Now make a fist and bring it up. Now pop your collar. Now show me cantankerous. Show me adventurous. Having flashbacks to my days shooting glamour shots here.
Lord. Good Lord. And welcome to Three Geeks in a Microphone podcast. I'm Dean.
I'm Art.
I'm Matt.
Maria is too quiet.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure this out. It bugs me. I can't see anybody. I can't see myself. I shouldn't say this while being recorded. Yeah, my dog has been having diarrhea. So before this, I was scrubbing dog poop. So, God, yeah, my life is so glamorous.
I'm glad.
I can't even see what I look like. So I probably.
I thought you said your doctor had diarrhea. So I was like,
Oh,
whoa.
Let's read you the intro.
All right.
Yay. So let me see. I'm trying to see if it will even let me sign on with my phone. But now it's what is my
And welcome to Three Geeks in a Microphone podcast. I'm Dean.
I'm Art.
Russ cannot make it with us today. He has a vintage toy sale he is hosting. So today we have two special guests, Mr. Matt Swaford of Vintage Reclaimers Vintage Toys. Jesus Christ, I did it again. One of these days I will get it right. Matt, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And our channel's good friend, Miss Maria. How are you, ma'am?
Hi, I'm doing good.
Good. So today we are going to be doing a review of the 1985 horror comedy House, starring William Catt of Greatest American Hero fame. There's some quick side notes here. First, let's start it this way. Memories of this film? Have everyone seen it before, or was this a first time view for you?
I saw it when I was I think when I was 7 or 8 years old, when it first came out on VHS. It was one of those, it has a legendary VHS box cover. So, I remember the tagline, "The ding dong, you're dead." Mm-hmm. And so I was just like, yeah, I've got to see this. Loved it when I was a kid. But yeah, saw it first run VHS.
I think I saw it when it came out on HBO. I wasn't supposed to see it, but I did anyway.
Maria?
Yeah, sorry, I'm still trying to figure. I can't see you guys.
Okay.
So I saw it I grew up on horror movies, and so when they came out, I immediately saw them. My dad was into horror movies, so I saw it when it came out at a young age. So, always loved it. It was a great movie. It is a great movie. Watched it again last night, probably for literally the 100th time. I highly recommend it to anybody who wants a good horror comedy. And as Art said, the who's who of the 80s is kind of in there. So it has a little bit of everything. It has a lot of comedians. I think I've said also before how it did what Ghostbusters did. It's comedians who are in a horror movie. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's go over some technical specs of the film. This movie has a lot of connections to Friday the 13th. It was It was produced by Sean S. Cunningham, who did Friday the 13th. It was directed by Steve Miner, who was an assistant director on Friday the 13th 1, and he directed Friday the 13th 2 and 3. Even some of the actors in there made cameos in the Friday the 13th movies. Of course, it stars William Catt, George Wendt, Richard Mall, and Kay Lentz. It was released on February 28th, 1986, according to the information I have, or it could be 86, yeah. Budget of $3 million, and it made $22.1 million worldwide. In today's dollars, it cost 7.3 to make, and it would have grossed 54 million in 2021 dollars.
That's a huge pull for a lower budget movie too. I can see why they made so many sequels.
Right. So let's walk through it. Excuse me. So I think this has one of the coolest opening shots for the credits of any movie I've seen in a long time. How it has it shows the house and it flips from the negative aspect, the blue and grays, how they flip the polarity on the film.
Yeah, that was an interesting choice. I don't think I've ever seen that since or before.
Me neither. So go ahead.
Oh, no, go on. Just go on. No, sorry. Keep going.
So it opens up. We get a shot of this beautiful house, which is a real house in Northern California. It was built in 1874. They did add some stuff to it for the production, like the sidewalk was not there, the wrought iron fencing and the brickwork in front of the house, that did not exist. They added that for the production. And the production crew came in 4 weeks early and they redid all the landscaping. They even redid the back of the house, replacing the clapboard with brick to match it up.
That's one of the things I noticed. I mean, immediately, because I hadn't seen this since I was, 8 years old or whatever. But I liked that the house looked like a normal house. It wasn't, overly gothic or grotesque or creepy or anything like that. It looked like a house that a relative would live in. And that pool in the backyard is badass.
Yeah, it's very unique. I even have a note in here. It's a very unique looking pool.
Yeah. It kind of doesn't go with the house, but I kind of like that it didn't aesthetically match the house. It's kind of like, oh wow, this is like a little grotto pool, and then the house is a completely different style. I thought that was a neat juxtaposition.
When they filmed this, the ground floor is the actual house, and some of the shots of the second floor are. But then they moved to a sound stage, and they meticulously recreated the second floor on a sound stage to match what was in real life. So they could, if they had to destroy doors and whatnot, they're obviously not going to do that to a 100-plus-year-old home.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So we start off with the grocery boy delivering groceries to the house.
How insulting is that too? That they couldn't give him a name.
Yes,
it couldn't be. Hey, this is Bobby, the grocery boy. It's just grocery boy. And he's riding a vintage Spree. I don't know if you noticed that or not. He's riding a vintage Honda Spree. So he gets up, he knocks on the door, the creepy house, and of course no one answers. He sets the groceries on the table and says, hey, I'll collect next week, there's no one here. And you hear this weird noise, so he creeps upstairs and he stops and he notices the picture
on the stairwell as he's coming up. He even says, what does he say? Like, that's rad or something like that. He takes note of it. Goes up and he's looking for Mrs. Hooper and opens the door, and she has hung herself inside, and he runs out and takes off.
You know damn well if that movie was made today, he'd have walked right past that corpse because he'd have had his nose in his cell phone. He'd have been playing Candy Crush or some shit.
He wouldn't have.
Before he ran out, he would have taken a picture of her too and like posted it on Twitter.
Yeah, he'd have like a douche smiley face. You know, he'd be like right up next to her, like waving and shit.
Hashtag all in a day's work.
Hashtag old lady hung herself. Hashtag I'm getting out of here.
Hashtag keeping the groceries.
Hashtag grocery boy life.
So, and I find it funny because when he runs out and jumps back on his spree, it's almost like he takes his time to start up the engine and get moving. Was it just me, or am I the only person that noticed that?
He definitely had a hesitation. Yeah, it was like he wasn't in no sense of urgency.
So next we move on to the next shot is the funeral where they're burying the aunt, and the first time we see William Catt. Now I forgot to look him up. The old guy he's talking to, who is he? Is he just like a family friend, or?
I don't think they ever actually said.
Yeah, because he goes on this long thing about how your aunt was such a nice woman, but she wasn't crazy. My wife is crazy. You're
because they never go back to the guy. You never see him again.
Right. And the actor, I've seen him before, but I truthfully I forgot to look him up.
I feel like the whole reason he was there was to try to set the tone for the viewer that, oh no, she didn't just hang herself because, like, no, she wasn't crazy. There was nothing wrong with her. So to kind of develop that sense of dread, I didn't look too far into it. I just thought it was like, okay, this is they're using this character and this guy as like, you know, almost like a bullet point in the plot.
Almost like not so subtle foreshadowing.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we need a foreboding guy to just be like, oh no, she wasn't crazy. Trust me, believe me. And you know, so like, there must be more to this house than we've seen so far.
So from we get through it's a fairly quick scene. I mean, you see the foot hit the little motor to lower the casket. And next we learn that William Catt, Robert Cobb, is an author. He's a horror author. And this is probably one of the strangest shot scenes in the movie, where he's doing the book signing and the whole line of these weirdos trying to they're either in love with his writing or in love with his ex-wife, who is a soap opera star.
This scene to me felt like a lot of times when you see a character in a movie that's a writer, that's the script writer projecting what it's like to be a writer. And I feel like that's what was happening here. Whoever wrote the script, I know Fred Decker came up with the idea and the original story, but someone else, I can't remember his name, but he wrote the script and changed quite a bit. But I felt like that was inside the writer's view of like crazy fan people, where when they have to do those signings, there's always like, oh yeah, I really love your wife when she was in that show. And
right.
Then there's the guy that's like, oh, what's your next book about? Oh, it's about Vietnam. Oh, okay. Well, that sounds fun. Great. and like, there's always just that kind of menagerie of weirdos that you run into with any kind of fandom, really. There's never just the normal straight arrow, middle of the road person that's like, hi, I really love your work. Thank you for what you do. You know, there's always some tinge to it that's kind of lunatic.
Well, speaking of, the screenplay was written by Ethan Wiley. And interesting here, earlier in his career, he was an effects artist and puppeteer on Return of the Jedi, Gremlins, and Romancing the Stone.
Wow. Okay.
And you're right. The story was written by Fred Decker. He is mostly known for directing Night of the Creeps, but he also wrote Monster Squad with Shane Black.
Yeah, Fred Decker's pretty he's very well respected. He didn't do a whole lot, especially in the kind of the zenith of his career. He had kind of a short run, but he's kind of come back around. I know he wrote The Predator from a couple years ago that Shane Black directed, and he did RoboCop 3. He did something else in '85. I can't remember right now. You can obviously tell I'm not prepared for this.
That's all right.
Like, oh yeah, that one guy did it, whatever his name is. It's something else in '85. I can't put my finger on it, but he yeah, he had a great little run there with Monster Squad and Night of the Creeps.
So again, back to the scene we're talking where all these weirdos are getting their books signed. Now, I'm a big Friday the 13th fan. Did you Roberts, what is his publisher, the guy sitting to his right with the kind of like the crazy perm and the mustache?
That was a missed opportunity right there. That should have been Robert Culp.
Oh, that would have been killer.
Yes.
But that guy was in Friday the 13th Part 3. He was the grocery store owner who was, I don't know if any of you guys have seen it, the guy who's walking around with the rabbit and he's eating the peanuts right out of the jar, the real gross dude. And it hit me because I'm watching it going, why do I know his voice? And then it hit me. I'm like, oh, he was in Friday the 13th. So, and you see the reaction when he says, well, what's your next book about? What's going to be my personal experiences in the Vietnam War? And the guy's like, oh, okay.
Oh yeah, that guy, the chubby guy with glasses.
Yes.
Every time I see that guy, all I can remember him from is a movie called Hamburger, the Motion Picture. And he's one of the cadets or whatever that goes to Burger College, and he's like obsessed with eating, and he like shocks himself. And
he shocks himself. But
oh yeah, he hooks up this thing to himself and shocks himself so that he won't be hungry. And every time I see that guy for the rest of my life, I'll be like, oh yeah, that's the hamburger guy. Yeah, anyway. Oh, I found out what else Fred Decker wrote.
What?
Godzilla 1985.
Yep, and if I remember correctly, it never went into production, right? They couldn't get the.
Oh no, they made that movie, Godzilla 85. Oh. He wrote the story for it.
Huh.
And, he actually is more of a writer than he was a director. He wrote If Looks Could Kill with Richard Grieco, Ricochet, that had Denzel Washington. He did some Tales from the Crypt.
Okay.
Yeah. So had a good little career.
So next thing we know, we got we have Robert and his publisher walking down the street, and again he brings up no one wants to read about the fucking Vietnam War anymore. You're a horror writer. We need something else. And it's to the point where you realize that he's kind of down on his luck here because his wife's left him. Have we established that yet? Yeah, that his wife had left him, and his child disappeared. And he's so behind on this book, he might have to pay back the advance that the publisher gave him for this book. So I think next, and then we see him in his apartment and where he's writing. I don't know about you guys, but I thought it was hilarious when he opens up the freezer and all there is banquet frozen dinners. I'm like, oh, this is so sad.
But is it because in '85 it was the thing? I mean, we had tea trays just for TV dinners.
Right. It was
there were only like two different kinds of TV dinners back then too. It was like Banquet and Hungry Man.
Right.
Oh man, and they were both like awesome. Like, I just remember I'll have a TV dinner tonight. And it's just weird because my kids won't touch anything like that.
Your kids have pretty good
Cultural
taste.
thing.
I don't know. Every once in a while, I'll grab myself one just for nostalgia, but they're not the same. It doesn't have the different compartments anymore. Anyway,
I feel like there's so much preservatives in them now, but back then they would just literally make like a kind of a cheesy meatloaf and then just freeze it. And that's what you got. But now it's like eating chemicals, and the brownies are like made out of plastic pretty much.
whatever. I've eaten MREs, dude. I've eaten worse than that.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, it's not the worst stuff out there by far, but
So I thought it was funny. He throws it in the microwave and
Didn't even take it out of the package.
no, he didn't even open it to vent it. He just tosses it in there and sets it for 30 minutes. But his apartment is the aesthetic. It's very, very 80s. Well, obviously the movie came out in the 80s, but it's representative of a bachelor in that time. I mean, you have the ancient computer he's working on with the dot matrix printer set up to the right of it. And I don't know about you guys, but I think that stereo system he had was sweet.
Yeah.
I mean,
the computer was too, but
it even had the speakers were even built into the shelf. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but the speakers were above his head.
it was definitely a classic.
Well, and the thing is back then, like stereos and stereo systems, which really, I mean, that doesn't really exist anymore, honestly. We have sound systems, but it was part of the furniture too. It was just, and it was, I just remember around, I think 85 or 86, I asked for a stereo system and it was just freaking amazing. It was huge, but it's still, I mean, like, I think I got rid of it in my 30s when, like, during the time that we moved. It lasted forever. Anyway, that's beside, I'm sorry.
No,
on.
please. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
but they don't exist like that anymore. So, I mean,
they do. It's just you have to piecemeal them together, and they're very expensive.
Yeah.
So, of course, he starts off. The farthest he's gotten in his book is the title page. He hasn't gone any further. And out of nowhere, he stops, grabs his phone book, and he calls an FBI agent, asking for an update on where his son is.
And it wasn't Robert Culp.
No, and again, another missed opportunity. It should have been Robert Culp. But the part that got me was when he says, the FBI agent says to him, "Oh, and by the way, stop calling so-and-so from the CIA. They really don't want." First of all, how in the world did he get contact information for a spook in the CIA? I find this very implausible.
Well, it was the 80s, and if you were, the common denominator there was, oh, he was in Vietnam, he was in the military, he knows people in the CIA. I feel like that's 80s movie logic.
I can see that. So next he goes and wait a minute. No, I'm sorry. His ex-wife calls and he says, "Oh yeah, I got the guys over. We're playing poker." He's standing there alone. He cranks up the stereo to make it sound like, there's people there. And she's at an award ceremony where she lost, but she is happy he's working again. And he even says, I was a jerk. He kind of truncates the call and goes from there. So I don't know. I'm not quite sure what that was trying to establish. Was it trying to establish that they still love each other and they shouldn't have split up, or what was this trying to establish? The call between him and his wife.
What's weird is one of the things I noticed is that she really doesn't have a presence. I think that they more wanted to establish her for the deadite scene, and that's the best way I can describe it, is the deadite scene. For her showing up so that we'd recognize her, and then why he'd let her in, and because that was really the only time that she really did have a presence. I mean, except when George Wentz's character called her. I think that was it, right? He called her
Yep.
because he was worried, but she never followed up on that. But all of a sudden we're expecting it. But I think that it's to set up the context of what she looks like, their relationship and stuff as of now.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it was to establish that she's, you know, who she is and everything else, but also that they're estranged, and also that she had that guy that was like her date or whatever, so that she's kind of moved on. I feel like, again, it was just kind of a mechanism of the plot. But she really doesn't have much going on in the movie, so it kind of has her be there. And then when the neighbor calls her later on, which is super weird, by the way.
Yeah, how does he just met him, but he has the ex-wife's number. Yeah, that's just like, ooh. Wow.
He steals Roger's book.
Yeah, he steals the phone book.
Phone book.
Oh.
So
is super weird.
We'll get to that because I noticed something in his apartment that I'm still scratching my head about. But
yeah, I was about to say I could talk about Norm the neighbor for an hour because he's got plenty of weird things going on.
So we fire next. We have I want to call him Hinckley. That's not right. Cobb. He's sleeping that night and he has a nightmare about his son. He wakes up and I love how he opens the closet door and you throw this old ass suitcase, flips it up, and he's just chucking shit. It's not even landing. He's just chucking whole suits and shit in. And, okay, let's pack. So next thing you know, he's in that beautiful Volvo. Of course, in the 80s, you're successful, you have a Volvo wagon. He pulls up to the house where we meet the real estate agent. Now, the real estate agent, again, another guy I didn't look up, but he pops up in a lot of movies.
He's Michael Ensign. He's not a popular, but he was a character actor in the 80s. He was also the hotel manager in Ghostbusters.
That's where I've seen him. Thank you.
Like, excuse me, that's ridiculous. I will not pay that, that amount. Yep. And then they're like, oh, we'll put the ghost right back in there. He's that guy. He was on a lot of TV shows in the 80s, just as like, the principal or whatever. Like he would always play these kind of
authority figures or
managerial teachers, professors, that kind of stuff.
Okay. So we have to talk about Robert Cobb's wardrobe here. He gets out and he's wearing the blue sweater with the khakis, okay, with the sleeves pushed up.
The blue sweater I don't mind.
The other one.
The blue sweater is at least a cable knit. I've owned sweaters like that. Not a bad looking sweater. The problem I have with his wardrobe in that scene, and he's also wearing these shoes later on when he's wearing the ridiculous sweater. He's wearing these black penny loafers with like gold decorative buckles on them with blue jeans and a sweater. And I was like, that is a hard choice from that wardrobe designer. Because nobody dressed like that back then.
Wow. I just
those shoes, I was like, whoa, what is he wearing?
And he's got, and granted, I do this with myself, but he's got the sunglasses pushed up on his head. I do that. I'm so bad, I'll put them up and I'll forget they're there and I'll wear them around all day. Anyways, so they go into the house and we establish, how the real estate agent wants to, don't worry, we'll sell all this stuff. We can get money for it, and we established that he was raised by his aunt when his mother died. So he grew up in this house. So he's got history with it. And as we're walking around, he's like, let's take a look at the what did they call it? The side house, or how did he refer to it? It's like a bungalow that's attached to the house. it looked to me more like a garage than it did an actual house, but or like
Yeah,
a
I
guest
always
house.
thought that was like a pool house / garage. And then the realtor's like, oh yeah, you can turn this into a living quarters and rent out the rest of the house. And I was like, really? Like, this looks like a shed, man.
Right. And it's not that big. I mean, so he's walking around, he goes to the backyard, and we finally get a view of the pool. Now you mentioned we talked about this pool is unique. You're right though. It doesn't seem to match the house.
Yeah, it's just way too cool. It's got that like grotto feel to it.
Mhm.
Um, and it just really contrasts poorly with the house, but I kind of like that because sometimes I've been to houses before where it's like, okay, this house is all right. And then when you see the pool or something, really awesome in the backyard or like a gazebo or something, you're like, oh, wow, that's cool, but it doesn't really fit with this. But
Right. At the
that
time,
adds to the charm, I think.
right. I mean, the house itself, like I said, was built in like the 1870s, I believe. And that is definitely a modern 80s, late 70s, 80s style pool. You don't
Oh, for sure.
you don't see anything quite like that. But here's where the important bit is. Roger has this flashback where he's trimming the hedges, and I like the fact they used the same hedge clippers that we see later in the film. I noticed that, but he's trimming the hedges, and his kid's sitting in the backyard playing with a car, and all of a sudden he disappears. And so he's looking for Jimmy. He runs to the front, and we see that car peel out. And they did a good job thinking the first time I saw this, well, first time in a long time, hey, was he kidnapped by the people driving away in the car? Because it's kind of implied. He asked his wife, have you seen the kid? And he's like, no, I thought he was outside with you. So he's looking for him. And next thing you know, he's in the pool. So he jumps in the pool and he disappears. And the next thing we know, we see he's got a towel around him and he's talking to the local police, the detective. And he's like, no, I'm telling you, he was in the pool and he disappeared. The last place I saw him was in the pool. Now, the detective that's interviewing him, was the police officer in the very last scene of the original Friday the 13th. Well, man, we didn't see any boy. It was the same guy. I just thought it clicked when I was watching him last night. That's where I've seen him from. Anyhow. And we see the creepy aunt come in, and I don't know, just the facial expressions she makes in the scene are just really creepy. It's like a weird half smile and oh hi.
Well, I feel like, yeah, she kind of plays it almost not funny, but like, oh yeah, the house took him. It's no big deal.
Right.
Yeah, she's a crazy aunt. I never got like scary from her. That's weird. It's like the absence of scary. And that's what I kind of thought from her, And I think it's just because you I don't know. Maybe through the years of seeing the perfected scary old woman, she was just kind of blah.
Yeah. She seemed very kind of even keel for the most part,
I mean,
except for the whole like, oh yeah, the
like
house
her
was
too. I'm just like, she's kind of being supportive, and
I feel like they should have played something up more into her, like the reason that she was compelled to hang herself.
yeah, they didn't. The only thing that they said is the house tricked me, and it's going to trick you. But why did she kill herself? That doesn't say anything.
I think they should have replaced the aunt with Dwight Schultz.
Dwight Schultz
would have been way better.
Man.
How do you trick yourself into hanging yourself? Like, or how do you trick somebody into hanging themselves? Like, whoops, I slipped on a banana peel. Now I'm hanging.
Well, you guys know my theory. The woman was into some kink.
Yeah, maybe, tricked her into thinking she wanted to be autoerotically asphyxiated.
I just thought she heard George Wendt and William Catt talking in the restroom before they shot that scene. It was like, I'll show them who's hung.
I don't know, maybe her and David Carradine were in a never mind.
They were
So-
going distance.
Say what?
They were going for distance.
Going for distance. So this, of course, this is when the mom or his wife at the time, screams at her, you old bag, and runs out of the house. And we're jumped back into present day where the real estate guy is talking to him. And I think next they go through the side house in the next scene, right? Yeah, there, because this is when he asked him about his grandfather. And of course, it's so cringy, the scene with the harpoon.
Yeah.
How do you not know that fucking thing is not loaded? It's got a 5-inch spike sitting out the front of it.
Well, and who accidentally like points that in somebody's direction and then, oh, whoopsie, sorry, didn't realize. It's like, dude, you almost just skewered him, and Kat's reaction to that was really, I almost think they shot that in reverse because he doesn't even flinch. I feel like it's just like when it goes, it's just like, what thunk? And he's just kind of like, whatever. And I feel like the natural reaction to that would be like, fuck, shit, Jesus.
And as a Vietnam vet that saw combat, how did he not kill the other guy?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, how did he not lunge at him and like with a knife in his teeth?
Especially with the fact that he did obviously have trauma when he was, in Vietnam. So he would have you're right, a triggered response.
Yep. That definitely was a problematic scene for me. I was kind of like, he didn't even like bat an eyelash. It was just kind of like, whoops, zoinks, you almost put one through my eye there, Chet.
Well, I don't know. Maybe he was wearing the super suit underneath that blue sweater, and he knew he wasn't going to get hurt.
Yeah, he was wearing the red jammies.
Right. So interestingly is when we get to the painting, and I find I looked this up online. I look up the artist, and you can find all the paintings used in the film. And if you look at them, it actually kind of gives a breakdown of the entire movie in painting form.
Well, that's something that I would never connect at all.
Yeah, I didn't really examine those paintings, but just first glance, I was like, okay, those are kind of bonkers.
Right.
But art's suggestive, so who knows.
Well, it even goes into one of the there's a painting that was done that I don't think was ever shown in the film, the giant marlin, the swordfish.
Mm-hmm.
It has, in the painting, they show the grandfather skewered by the marlin, and he's just kind of floating. I don't remember seeing it in the film, but it was done for the movie. So if you look at those paintings, it paints a picture of the storyline of Grandma.
Interesting. It's almost like they're storyboards for the movie.
So
that's an interesting. I feel like that's an interesting bit of backstory though that should have been in the film. Like maybe that was something that was cut.
Could be. I didn't see anything on that, but I think they just wanted. I know the director wasn't going for like hardcore scary. He was more going for, I read an interview with him. The overall feel he wanted was surreal. That's why a lot of the monsters you see aren't necessarily frightening. They are more surreal and what's the word I'm looking for? Cartoonish is how he described it.
They're like definitely cartoony.
Right. Like the two.
No, I didn't think that they were cartoony though. I mean, Richard Mole's character and the Deadite wife, they were
The
kind of
hag.
creepy.
I don't know. I don't think they were scary though. They were
Disturbing?
gross. Yeah, they were gross and
But
disturbing.
they were also exaggerated in some ways too. So I can see, yeah.
Well, like the gargoyle witch, whatever she was, the Deadite witch, she had that crazy voice though that was like.
I love that. I love that voice. So,
Yeah, so I feel like that adds to the cartooniness of it, you know, because they would have given her a much scarier voice if that's. I feel like if that's what they were going for. Ben, I mean, Big Ben's definitely. I mean, I know we're going to cover him later, but he's definitely the scariest part of that movie. But even watching that now, like some of the makeup on him just doesn't hold up.
No, you totally see his mouth.
Yeah, you can see the mouth underneath moving, so it looks like a guy with, you know, like a foam rubber suit, you know, like, hey, I'm a scary zombie guy, you know.
The critter in the closet, that was kind of creepy. I mean, that was definitely that was probably, I would consider that a jump scare type thing, but multiple faces in it.
That's the best monster in the movie, I think, is the
I was
that's
rather
referred to
impressed.
as-
I took notice of it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that was totally
Vietnam
Clive
monster.
Barker.
you know, it's interesting you brought that up because when I was researching that prop was 18 feet long.
Oh,
It required 15 people to make work, and they even constructed a working lower bowel system in the puppet.
wow.
Wow.
For something that you barely see. Like, I
Mhm.
mean, you get like a abstract view of it, but you really don't see it unless you pause it. But did you notice the fingers were bullets?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, and that's like an amalgam monster of his experience in Vietnam.
Well, they referred to it as the war ghoul.
Yeah.
So, which kind of makes sense, but we're ahead of ourselves here. Where was
yeah.
I?
We're
No, it's
taking the off
cool.
road here.
Where were we? So he goes through the house. Or
Paintings.
yes, he sees the last painting she was working on, and again, if you look at that painting, it comes up much later, but it gives foreshadowing in the painting because it shows the closet, and if you look in the lower right hand corner, there's a rope and a chair. So it foreshadows her hanging herself, which I thought was
even though it's already happened. Oh, in the painting, you mean?
right in the painting because
Okay.
because he even says, well, she was working on this when she died.
Oh, okay.
So
Interesting.
let's see. Next, we go back into the house, and he says flat out, "I'm not going to sell." And you can tell he's pissed off because he wants his commission on the sale, and he leaves. And the next shot we see is let me think here. Are we introduced to the neighbor next?
The sexy neighbor in the pool. I think that, yeah.
No, because that's the hag. Remember, he had to kill the hag.
Oh, yep. No, his wife came, yes, because after it wasn't the instant yet that George did the harpooning, because that came later on, right? There was the one he just told him about the raccoon, the crazy raccoon, and his wife. Well,
no, because we haven't met George Wendt yet.
Oh, we haven't?
Yeah,
No.
The next scene is where we meet him.
That's right, because he's wearing that awesome fucking sweater, that deep V-neck.
Oh, is he in the deep V sweater
Yes.
at this point?
Yeah, remember, because he's taking out the garbage, and this is where we see George Wendt. He comes.
Nobody has ever worn a V-neck like that without something underneath it. Ever. That was never designed to be worn with all of your chest hanging out of it.
I don't know. I probably would have worn something like that back in the day with nothing under it. Yeah. Well, no.
I mean, William Cat was in decent shape, but like he's wearing that. He's wearing pleated dress slacks.
Yes.
And those damn black shoes, those loafers again. And that was just such a look.
Right.
Such a crazy look.
That was totally to show he wasn't wearing the red jammies underneath.
Well, that would make sense because it's like, hey, look at this giant window into my torso with this sweater.
But that doesn't mean he wasn't off to do the Greatest American Hero, the musical.
Oh God. So So let's back up for a second here. So as he's in the house, he does like a quick tour of it. He looks at some of the, goes through some of the rooms. It shows his bedroom he had as a kid with the wagon bed and all the. Is it just me, or is that room just creepy?
It was creepy. Yeah.
It's and the fact that he sleeps in that bed through this whole movie makes it even worse.
Yeah.
And
But you know, the fact that he is like, I mean, seeing creatures everywhere, and he's still, I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Actually, though, the sleeping in the bed really kind of, in a sense, to me, always made sense because, like, as a military or a war vet, regression is like a huge thing.
right.
If you think about it, like when you're stressed out or you're having a rough day, what do most vets do? A lot of them today collect toys from when they were children because
Yeah.
it's a reminder of better times. And there's also the possibility that obviously that, I mean, they did visit him and his wife and his son. So his son may have also slept in that bed.
Yeah,
This is true.
That makes sense. And honestly, if I was in a position like that where it's like I'm in, you know, if I had the chance to lay in the bed that I slept in when I was a kid, I would totally do it. Just
Well,
to,
yeah, I mean,
you know, just to
less
have
than
that
3 weeks.
tactile connection to it.
Less than 3 weeks ago, I tried to buy the house that my parents owned from 83 to 88 because
Yeah.
it was up for sale. So I that actually, that doesn't creep me out as much as some of the other stuff in the film, but that actually, believe it or not, actually seemed the most plausible parts of the film.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that comfort connection, I think, has something to do with it too, because he's lost his son, he's divorced or estranged from his wife, he's got PTSD, his aunt just died. So I mean, he's got a lot psychologically going on. So any kind of connection to normalcy, I think he would jump at.
Sure.
Yep.
So that makes a lot of sense.
I'm actually getting out of order here. So let me back up for a second. Sorry. So it again, it shows you at the end of the first night, he goes into the bathroom to brush his teeth. Now, I'm weird about this type of stuff, especially in a movie like this. When he opens the cabinet, I love seeing the old products in the cabinet. I saw there was an old Rolaids bottle.
Formula 44.
Yep, there's a Vicks 44 bottle in there. What
There's
else?
some mercurochrome and some methylate.
There was a box of Comtrex in there. And I don't know about you guys, but I've never seen anyone who brushes their teeth like this. He takes the toothpaste and puts it in his mouth and then starts brushing his teeth.
I know people that have done that. It's a weird thing. I feel like I feel like 95% of the people in the world put it on the toothbrush and then put it in their mouth. But
I would agree.
yeah,
And here's where we also established that he's taking Valium. Although at this point he goes to take one, but he doesn't. He puts the bottle back. And then it's when he goes in and goes back to sleep. Next, when we get him taking out the garbage in the V-neck. Oh, that V-neck. Oh.
it's not just the plunging V of that V-neck. It's the border on the V on the V cut. It's like 4 inches wide on each side. I mean, it almost looks like a throw rug or something. Like it's such a beefy sweater too. And I mean, they're in California, right?
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
In fact, they established they're in Marin County in California.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Whoever was the wardrobe designer was on that movie, I feel like gets an F minus.
So
But
no.
wasn't, I mean, okay, so God, I hate bringing this up. But when you think about it, like 85, the V-neck and the sweaters, I also flash back to the Cosby Show.
Heathcliff Huxtable.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
they raided his closet.
Yeah.
Well, sweaters were definitely a thing. I mean, and I feel like people kind of forced sweaters back then too. But I feel like that isn't an intrinsically 80s sweater. It's very, it's a like tan. There's no like neon, lightning bolts on it or anything. It's not a Huxtable type sweater where it's like the geometric patterns. And,
Part of me wondered if it was his wife's.
If he's sleeping in his childhood bed, maybe he's found some of her old clothes and is like,
Oh God.
Rolling around in them and shit.
I want to be close to her. I'm going to wear her sweater that she normally wears a turtleneck underneath too.
I mean, at least he wore a shirt under it, I guess. I don't know. I don't remember seeing any chest bush going on. Chest bush.
If he had like a white t-shirt on under that sweater, I feel like we wouldn't be having this conversation.
No, it wouldn't have stuck out that far. In fact, I took a screenshot of that and I sent it to my girlfriend and she just went, no, absolutely not. No.
She thought you wanted to buy one.
Now we know what we're getting for Christmas.
Don't tempt me. No, something I did notice when he goes out, and this is where we meet George Wayne, because the dog knocked over the trash cans, and he plays the perfect annoying neighbor. He's not exactly Norm from Cheers, but you get that Norm vibe.
He's got that Norm awkwardness where he's kind of unsure of himself.
Right.
Yeah.
And I thought it weird where he the first thing he talks about is the lady that lived here was fucking crazy. Oh, she was my aunt. Oh, she had a heart of gold. And when he realizes that he's a famous author, out of nowhere he just happens to have pages of his book in his back pocket.
Let's focus on that for a second. He doesn't have the book in his pocket. He has pages that are torn out and like crammed into his pocket. What kind of choice was that? Like what does that symbolize?
I think he was a public shitter. I think he was using them for toilet paper in people's backyards.
Oh man.
I would
wow.
be like,
that is wow.
I feel like that makes more sense than just having pages of a book crammed in your pockets.
That's some character development right there.
Yep.
At least then they would serve a purpose. Like, has anybody ever known anybody that has torn or cut pages out of a book and kept them in their pocket?
No.
Not unless they needed emergency toilet paper.
Exactly. Or kindling, like why would anybody do that? And then he pulls it out and is like, oh, hey, can you sign this for me? Like he wouldn't, like anybody in the world wouldn't think that was weird. If he produced the book and was like, hey, can you sign this? Oh yeah, sure. You got a pen? Oh, I don't. Oh, okay, fine. Well, no, here's some random pages from one of your books that I keep on my person. Like, who would do that?
Or even worse, before he even pulls out the book, he's like, hey, why don't you invite the wife and kids over and I'll cook dinner. I just met you 3 seconds ago, but I'm going to invite you into the house and make you dinner.
It was a friendlier time.
Oh, no kids? Okay, let's grab burgers and we watch the A's game. You're an A's fan, right?
Well, I feel like that's even not the creepiest thing he's done in this movie. Yeah, we haven't even got to it yet.
Oh, right. We'll get there.
But yeah, we're almost. I'd say it's like 1A and 1B, but yeah.
As long as we're talking about wardrobe, though, really quick, I do want to bring up. You see him in these V-necks, the typical 80s stuff. But as of maybe this slightly, like I think maybe when the Deadite wife came, or just at that pivotal moment, his wardrobe changes. He goes back to his army fatigue type stuff.
Yes.
I was going to bring that up. Now, my question is, okay, we see him packing. Where the fuck did he get it?
Where'd he get the flak vest?
Right. Where'd he get the helmet? It's not like, we didn't see him pack it. And
Well, I mean, we have to assume that he did some packing off screen.
Or
That also raises the question, though, why does he carry a helmet and goggles and a flak jacket? Unless he
Right.
picked all that crap up whenever he got the video equipment.
that crossed my mind.
the other plausible thing was is maybe he lived there when he got out of the service before he got married.
Or maybe he was storing it at his aunt's. Yeah.
Yeah, some of his like his sea bag was already there. But then I don't, call me crazy, but I don't think I was allowed to bring home a flak vest or even any of the armor that I actually wore.
You're not. We had to turn all that
Yeah.
shit back in.
You had to turn it in. I mean,
and
you
we
were
have
allowed
to-
to keep your personal uniforms, but yeah,
And we-
any body armor and stuff and your helmet, you had to turn back in.
And if it was damaged, you had to pay for it.
Yeah.
That might have been, I don't know this for sure. That might have been a different thing back then, because I know a kid I grew up with, when we were in third grade, I was at a sleepover and they had this big trunk. It was like a steamer chest or whatever. And he opened it up and he was like, "You want to see something cool?" And he opened it up and his dad's M16 from Vietnam was in there, and a bunch of his, not necessarily weapons other than the M16, but and it was a NOM-era M16 too. It was a first gen, and there was like other, I want to say like his uniform or something was in there. But I know there was Vietnam ephemera in there at that point. So I don't know if maybe back then they were allowed to bring like something, or I don't know.
Well, not only that, though, you have to realize too, you guys, going back to the time that current the Cold War was very active. We just got done with the Vietnam War. Though we were actively, I mean, how many people, I don't know if you guys remember, because I know like with my father, we had in the basement, like survivalist stuff. And so those things would probably be more accessible, like with army surpluses and the Cold War and coming from the 60s and 70s. Now we're in the 80s, a new threat,
And I feel like back then you could go to an army surplus store and just buy that stuff.
Well, you still
Mhm.
can.
Yeah, you still
Yeah,
If
can.
you live here.
At least here in the Midwest, you still can.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I meant literally in Fort Wayne. I mean, well, I took you there, Dean.
yep.
I think the most plausible thing is when he bought all the Betamax cameras and everything else, he picked up that stuff.
We'll get
yeah,
there.
he was preparing for war,
Yeah,
yeah.
we'll get there. But now something I happen to notice after he's done talking to George Wendt, he goes inside and he shuts the front door. Did you notice the sheer amount of locks? There are 6 locks on this door, plus 2 chains and a deadbolt.
Well, yeah, that old lady didn't want to get raped.
Damn, but wow, just the sheer amount of locks on the door just kind of surprised me. I'm like, holy shit. So,
California.
and so next time we see him, he's still in that awesome V-neck and he's starting to write his book. Now, I don't know about, granted, I get that it's centralized to the plot, but I found that the Vietnam flashback scenes were jarring.
Yeah.
They weren't,
Those were really poor.
not just that, I wasn't expecting them. And then it kind of pulls you out of the movie. It goes from being this creepy haunted house movie to a war movie.
Well, I mean,
poorly
you
done
obviously
war
know
movie.
it's a flashback, but the quality of them, I mean, it doesn't even feel like you're immersed in the jungle. It feels like a soundstage where someone's putting on a play about Vietnam.
Yeah, they totally phoned that in.
Yeah. And,
Well,
and they're all clean and just the lighting of it. It was very poorly shot. It wasn't immersive whatsoever. And that was the jarring part of it for me, was like, oh, okay, wow. So at first I was almost like, wait a minute, is this happening in the house? Like, did he walk into a room and I wasn't paying attention and now he's in Vietnam? because that's what it felt like, was like he was in some kind of like pocket dimension,
Right.
from his memory, but it yeah.
Well, interestingly, when I was reading, they like I said, they painstakingly redid the second floor of this house on a soundstage.
Yep.
Right next to that were the sets for the Vietnam scenes, and they were put together in 2 weeks. They had to throw them together really quickly for whatever reason.
That explains it.
I'm thinking that I wonder if maybe the script changed and they had to include these scenes. I don't know, but
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely probably a production choice for some reason, but it definitely looked hastily put together. I mean, even if them filming, if they were in California, I've seen Vietnam movies that were shot in the hills outside LA. I mean, I feel like there was better ways to shoot it real time, like on real terrain, as opposed to, having a smoke machine and a couple of palms,
well, you think, well, you said this was shot in a $3 million budget.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to bet a lot of the budget went toward the effects work.
Oh, absolutely.
So I guess cut corners where you can. So here's where we get to he's writing, he stops, and the eye is watching him as he's walking around, and he goes up to his aunt's bedroom, and he goes to open the door. He's like, this is crazy. Why am I doing this? Goes, he brushes his teeth, comes back, and this is where we see as soon as the clock strikes midnight, important point here, the war demon or war ghoul comes out of the damn closet and tries to claw him. And the next morning is where we get the truck pulling up with all this Betamax equipment and camera equipment. Do you realize the sheer amount of money he must have spent on this equipment? Because
that was $4,000 worth of stuff at least in 1985.
Oh, if not more. I mean, some of those he had some high-end Nikon cameras, and those were a couple grand a piece back then. And even those the Betamax camcorders were $2,000-3,000 a pop. He's got at least $50,000 worth of equipment sitting there.
Yeah.
Well,
that was silly too.
As a writer, how much money is he making? I mean, is he still getting residuals from his wife, or how does he have this kind of cash to? Oh, I'm just going to order a ton of of equipment.
Well, they might have given him that big advance on his next book,
So here's where you were bringing this up, Maria. He changes up his clothing, and again, he's in fatigues. He's ready for combat. He's got the rope tied and pulls it open. Nothing. And I love the reaction shot when he opens it up and he's kind of standing there thinking to himself, "Am I crazy? Like, did it really happen?" He doesn't say this, but you can see it in his face when he opens that door and there's nothing there. So he goes back downstairs. He's grabbing a beer, and all of a sudden the clock goes off, and then it hits him midnight. So getting this, he runs back upstairs.
Well, he does the dry run where he pulls the door open, and then he runs down and does the monkey flips down the stairs, and then slides out the front door and kind of yay. Still not totally sure. I mean, I know I get doing the dry run, but I'm not sure what all the acrobatics were for.
Well, and the other thing I had read that, of course, he runs outside and slides down the front walkway, and there's George Wendt with his dog. Hi, Roger. I'm writing. First of all, who in the hell is he's not wearing knee pads.
No.
Who is going to slide on concrete? Do you know how bad that would hurt?
And when he stands up, his knees aren't all jacked up.
Right.
Like, yeah, that should have torn the hell out of his pants.
I know for the film, the walk, there was no walkway there, and the production crew made it out of wood and painted it to look like concrete. And it eventually, before filming ended, they actually did replace it with a real concrete walkway. But could you imagine sliding? Yeah, you're right, Art. They would have tore up his knees like you don't understand. And so he goes back in, and this is where we get it's midnight, pop it open. Wait a minute, or am I getting ahead of myself?
Well, he's back upstairs, and then he's getting ready to open the door, and then that's when Norm shows up.
Yes, with the food.
And he's got a tray of Miller High Lifes and Chinese food. And he's all, and he scares him.
Yep,
and he's
yep,
like,
yep.
what are you doing here? And he's like, oh, I thought I brought you a midnight snack.
Yeah, let's have a full meal with beer at midnight as a snack.
At midnight. And,
Why the
and not
fuck
only did
not?
he just walk into his house, but he walked upstairs, obviously checked each room until he found him.
Right?
Didn't knock and didn't ring the doorbell.
Who would do this?
And
No stalker, anything like that. No creepiness there.
oh no.
Yeah,
And
this
further
doesn't get the
still-
benefit of saying, oh, it was the 80s, it was 1985. People did that. Nobody's ever done that.
And even worse, I mean, we've established he has a metric shit ton of locks on the door. Why doesn't he lock the door?
Yeah.
Well, on top of that, who walks in on a combat vet with PTSD like that?
Right?
Expecting to not get shot in the fucking face.
Do you want to get shot, Norm? Because this is how you get
You get
shot.
If one of my neighbors did that, yeah, that's for my first instinct. Put 245 rounds, and then after that, empty a 12 gauge into them.
And what are the cameras for? Oh, I'll explain when I'm downstairs. So they're eating at the kitchen. It's a kitchen, right? Yeah, they're eating in the kitchen.
He was gonna do the Buffalo Bill dance in the sweater in front of them cameras.
No. Oh,
Get that image out of your head, Dean.
I feel like that would have been the best use for that sweater.
Yeah, but was he doing the tuck? Did he
He could
tuck?
have just he could have
yeah,
just
he was
wiggled a
fully
little
tucked.
bit and it would have fallen off his shoulders.
Kind of a cross between the Buffalo Bill dance and Flash dance with it hanging off the shoulder, with that curly hair. Anyways, so they're talking in the kitchen, and he goes, what's up with the cameras? He's like, do you believe in ghosts? Well, no, let me back up for a second. Well, I love the part when George Wendt says, well, let's see, your wife left you, your kid's missing, you're not working, but yeah, you're okay. You're not crazy. You got a couple marbles rolling around, but yeah, you're fine. You're fine. And, oh, you're in Vietnam. Yeah, you're fine. So, and then when he asked him, do you believe in ghosts? And they have this long contrived conversation about whether ghosts are real or not. And, he establishes that my aunt thought the house was haunted. And then if that's what the cameras are for, I need to get pictures of this. And I like how he doesn't believe him. He's like, yeah, well, if you ever get pictures of this, let me know. And as he's walking out. So
I feel like he's trying to be a good friend and a good neighbor, but he's also trying to, he's a fan. He's obviously a super fan of Roger Cobb. So he's trying to align himself with his favorite writer. So he's trying to put himself in a position to be like a person of support. So he's not telling him, yeah, you're nuts or whatever. He's just, oh yeah, you're fine, man. People think stuff, they see things, it's all good.
Well, I forgot about that, because he even says, he's like, are you sure you didn't imagine this? Because this is sounding like one of your books.
Yeah, you sure you haven't just been reading your books and your imagination's running wild? Yeah, he's trying to give him every out to come back to reality, I guess.
But that didn't stop him from pocketing his phone book.
Yes, I was just about to get there. So,
Yep, the third creepiest thing he's done. Yeah.
And it's not like it's a small pocketbook either. This is a good size book that he grabs off that table at the bottom of the stairs. How do you not notice your phone book's missing, especially one that big?
Yeah, that's an odd one. No, I mean, I just wonder who else he called out of that book. Hey, is
To be
this
honest, though, that's not-
Hi, this is Norm. I'm Roger Cobb's neighbor now. We're basically best friends. What's up with you? I mean,
But you know what though? That's not unexpected though with William Cat, because that's not the only book he lost. He lost the instruction manual for the Red Jammies.
Right.
Not once, but twice.
Right. Yep. So
That guy doesn't have the best history with books.
Norton.
he's a habitual book loser.
And
Yeah.
also he's a habitual kid loser too. He loses 2 of them in this movie.
Yeah, he's
Well,
not.
no, I wouldn't say that he lost the second one. I mean, he did his best to or, I don't know. Anyway, we'll get to that point. We're going ahead.
Yeah, we'll
Go.
get there, but
Oh, the kid with the ears.
yes. So okay. Oh, so you're right. So we get Norm anyway, Norm goes home and he starts calling his ex-wife. He's going through the book, which okay, on one hand I can see it. It's how he's concerned, but you're right. It's creepy as fuck that he just out of nowhere, hi, you don't know me. I live next door to your ex-husband, but hi, how are you? And
Hi, famous actress that you don't know me, but I'm just going to call you about your ex-husband because I'm a creepo neighbor. Like,
The thing is she didn't do anything, did she? I mean, just besides the deadite showing up, the wife in fact didn't really respond. I think she
yeah,
called
was
him.
like, I have to be up early. I can't come. So she was kind of like, you're on your own, deal with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she tries calling him, but he doesn't answer the phone. But something I noticed when they're in this conversation, I should have. My girlfriend picked up on this while we were watching this last night. When she gives him her daytime number, she gives a number of 954-1473. I thought almost every movie used 555 as its pretext because it's a fake number. She gives out a real phone number.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. I've seen that in a couple movies. I feel like it's still usually a dead number, but yeah, I don't know if there's a rhyme or reason to that.
It's just something that stuck out that she pointed out to me. So, the fish, where we get to the fish. Sorry, I'm going through my notes here. Anyway, okay. So let me get back to Norm sitting in his apartment. Okay, if you're looking at the coffee table in front of him, he's got the phone and some paperwork. What in the hell?
Pink phone, by the way, the pink rotary phone.
Yes. What in the hell was that sitting to the left on the table? It looked like a giant oscilloscope. They never show the front of it, but it's huge.
I didn't catch that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought that was his TV.
Was that
I thought they intended that to like be his TV.
Wow.
I could see it what, like an early portable style TV?
Yeah.
Because it didn't have an antenna or anything on it. It didn't have an aerial. It looked like an oscilloscope from the back.
I didn't catch it. I did notice that they kind of tried to make his entire house fit into the corner of an apartment.
Yes.
Because it's like, oh yeah, here's his couch wedged into the corner, and here's a desk right by the couch, and then here's a chair, and then it was like, here's his entire life in this corner.
And the hallway isn't that large because later on when he's taking him back in to lay him down on the couch, they can barely fit through the hallway going into the living room.
Yeah.
Side by side. So Let me see here. Okay, so okay, where are we? Next, we go back to Robert's writing again. Is he not, or is this the fish? Sorry, my notes are out of order here. Yes, this is where we start seeing the fish. It starts moving. Remember, it starts flopping around on the. So he starts beating it with a trophy, which I thought was funny. I mean, stop moving, stop moving. He goes back out into the garage area, and first he pulls a handgun, but he can't find any rounds for it. And then he pulls a 12 gauge or double barrel 12 gauge, finds some rounds for it, goes up and blows a big ass hole through the fish where it stops. And I love the scream.
Well, here's my question too. He went out and bought all that camera equipment so that he could catch the Vietnam monster on film.
Right.
Why didn't he just, instead of shooting the fish, why didn't he just go grab his camera and be like, oh, okay, here's the proof I need that I'm not crazy and that, you know, I can show to somebody or whatever. I've got a marlin on the wall that's, you know, coming to life. Like, that's kind of a missed opportunity, right?
I never thought of that. That's a good point.
Oh, look, a dancing marlin. But no, I shot it because it was moving.
Yeah, he totally could have inserted Bruce Campbell in there.
Well, that's where I feel like it really skates the Evil Dead line. That's kind of the first moment that it felt like that with the fish on the wall.
Yeah, like that scene in the cabin in the second movie where everything's laughing at him.
Yep.
That's totally Evil Dead.
Got that same manic energy.
Oh, it's something else I noticed. No one on the block heard a double barrel going off in the middle of the night while he blew a hole through this fish.
Yeah.
But earlier, the cops were called, or no, that comes later. That's later. But people were listening then anyway. So he runs downstairs, and his wife comes in the door. I think she's there. She didn't she didn't knock. She's just standing there in the foyer, right? His wife in the purple dress. And she's like, I was concerned about you, blah, blah, blah. She ducks down, and we finally get to see the hag. This creepy looking witch thing who throws him down on the stairs. They get here, and he blasts it with the shotgun.
Right.
And again, it blows her out the front door. Now, I thought it was nighttime. I thought that we had established that it was at night, but now when he shoots her and she goes through the door, it's in the middle of the day. Am I wrong here? Or...
It was
the
definitely
times are kind of weird in that movie, though. That's the thing. It really, you do easily kind of get confused because, you know, you have the whole midnight thing, you know, and then all the visitors at all hours.
Right. And again, when they do the establishment shot, when he first gets there, there's other people on the street. There's houses to his left. If you're standing in front, there's several houses. In fact, one has a nice red Fiero parked in the driveway that I noticed. There's a couple houses next door. So there's people on the street. No one notices a body being blown through the front door and landing on the steps of the house in the middle of the day.
Especially a terribly distorted one like that.
Right. And he takes a couple minutes, you know, he realizes he's stunned at what he's done. He's killed his wife. You know, he's kind of, you know, coddling her and whatnot, and for several minutes before he picks her up and takes her inside. No one notices this.
Yes, on the front porch, and a famous actress.
Right. No one noticed he blows a hole through her with a shotgun.
Yeah. Famous actress and a famous writer that has enough fans to wait in a line for him and geek out at the mall, or wherever he was signing. So there would be some kind of, somebody would know that they were both there.
Right.
other than the neighbor. And yeah, it's definitely weird. And the blonde, the hot chick neighbor
Yes.
too.
I forgot to mention her. We see her running earlier.
Yeah. Well, has she already come over to the pool yet or no?
No,
No.
not yet.
That
Not yet.
comes after that. Yeah.
That's after he kills the hag,
Mhm.
Yes.
And
And hacks her up. 'Cause
Well,
he-
and that's the thing is he has her like she's in the pool and then she shows up again, God knows what time with her son, and it's just like babysit him. It's like,
Right.
Oh yeah, that's insane.
yeah, we'll get there because I'm like, who in the fuck does this? I just met you earlier today, but yeah, you
I'd
look
like
like
to
a
drop my son off for you to fucking babysit.
Not only that, but make sure he gets a bath.
right.
Give him a bath, stranger.
Now, my guess is
See my child naked.
now my question is when she dropped, she was all dolled up when she dropped the kid off. I'm guessing she's going out for like a quickie and comes back. Is this the thing or
Well, she doesn't even. Does she say I have a date or something?
no? She just said she was going out.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, yeah, that wasn't enough time for a date, I don't believe. So she probably just had a fucking DA, And I'm gonna go get hammed out real quick. I'll be back.
So we'll get there, but hold up. So I love the scene where he with the hag and he's in the room, and how he doesn't notice her in the room, I'll never know. But she clocks him upside the head with the butt, which should have knocked him out. That's a nice mahogany fucking shotgun that should have. Anyways, she puts the gun to his head in that voice that we talked about, it that high pitched, yes, they say your prayer and click. And something we forgot to establish here, that he was being chased through the house by lawn tools.
Oh yeah, we forgot to mention that one. Yeah.
I forgot to mention that he's being chased through the house with lawn tools. And
Another Evil Dead connection, I feel.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he opens the door and they fly out and they kill the hag. And I love the head when it comes off and just plop. It doesn't even look like a real head. It's like half of a head. And the music choice when he's bagging up the head and the body is awesome. That the 60s, I don't think I wrote down the name of the song. Was it dedicated to the one I love?
Yes.
It's if there
Is that the song?
I think it was, or is that
No, it's You're No Good.
yes,
Yeah.
that's it. And then
You're
later,
no good, you're
Yep,
no
yep.
good, you're no good.
and if that isn't establishing the end of their marriage, I don't know what does. Because
Well, even before that, what's really weird is you wonder what was going through his head, because when he's on the porch or on the patio with her and he's cradling her, then he picks her up and then sticks her in that hall closet. Like what was going through his head? Like he just didn't want to get caught with her because he can hear the sirens.
that would be my guess. He wants to hide the body quick.
Yeah, because Norm called the cops over
Yep.
the shotgun blast that time.
And he leaves the gun on the porch and he's just going to casually sit there. Oh, I'm just polishing it. No cop is going to believe that shit.
Yeah, sorry, just cleaning my gun. That must be what they heard, is it accidentally went off. Ha ha.
And something I noticed here. Okay.
Well, I do want to touch on that
Oh,
for a second.
please.
I feel like, and I don't want to derail the whole conversation, but
No.
I feel like I enjoy this movie, but I feel like there is a much more interesting movie buried inside of it. I feel like, how in Fight Club, how Brad Pitt is a character through the whole movie, and then you realize at the end that he was never there, that he's another part of Edward Norton's psyche,
Right.
and another personality. I feel like this whole movie instead of playing it straight with actual monsters and ghosts or whatever and all these things, it could have very, very much walked a line where, is he actually seeing these things, or is this all a hallucination brought on by the fact that his son is missing / dead, his divorce, the PTSD from Nam, everything that this guy's going through, his writer's block? Could it be like a Shining situation where he's just kind of cracking up? And if you
I'm
look
gonna
at
say no. I'm gonna say no, because if it's one thing this movie does do, is it validates the other, like the occurrences that people are, kind of like George's Wentz character, and is seeing it or suspecting something. Just, the fact that people are hearing this, I think it goes out its ways to establish that this is real, honestly.
Oh, right. I agree. They play it straight, and they don't.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it is this. I'm saying it could have been this movie, and it would have been a more interesting movie had they made it where it was open to interpretation. It's kind of like when you watch the movie Total Recall. There's two ways to view that movie. You can either watch it that it's happening linear and what you're seeing is actually the story, or this is all in his head. This is what he paid for. And this is his fantasy that he went to that place to get. So as I'm watching it, I'm like, this would have been like, because it's when he kills the hag, I mean, it's his ex-wife. So whether he loves her or not, that's his ex-wife. So it's like the hag could have been a manifestation of how he felt about her, as opposed to, and going back and forth where it's like, oh no, I killed the good version of her, but it really wasn't her. Oh no, it's the hag. Oh, okay. So it's fine, totally fine then, like just processing that grief of a breakup. I feel like there was a lot of layers that they really could have. Like I said, I feel like there's a better movie had they had more budget, or had they had more ambition with it, or whatever, that this story could have wrapped itself around. But instead, I mean, it's, and it's fine. It is what it is. It's an enjoyable movie, but as I'm watching it, that's the notes I kept making, was there's a way better movie here. It's like almost like a psychological experiment, or an observation of someone going through just extreme grief and having this kind of nightmarish solitude.
That's interesting. That's an interesting observation.
It was the biggest thing I took away from this movie. And, but again, it's enjoyable for what it is. But the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, even his grief over his, maybe his best friend, Big Ben, I don't know, his buddy in Vietnam, losing him or not making that decision to kill him, that's the kind of thing that would stick with him and really screw him up.
Right.
And I feel like all of that would just kind of go into this grief soup that this poor guy's had to deal with.
But you know what they never did kind of bring up is why the house? Was it the vengeful spirit, or is it something about the house itself?
I think that's implied. I think it's the house is almost like a portal or a conduit, but it kind of feeds off of like his grief and his experiences. So the house knows that he was in Vietnam. So that's why the Vietnam ghoul comes out of the closet.
Right.
And it knows about his ex-wife. It knows about the kid, about his son. So maybe that's why the two little weirdo potato kids steal the other one.
The aunt even says, when he has that hallucination with her, says, this house knows everything about you.
Yeah.
So,
well, even the fish, if the fish in that painting, if the fish or whatever killed his grandfather, that would inform that Marlin coming to life and kind of being like a specter or whatever.
It makes sense, because he starts going back to when he's talking to the real estate agent. He starts to say what happened to his grandfather, and then is interrupted by the harpoon gun. So based on the picture, I'm assuming he was killed by a fish.
Yeah.
So
that house was basically the mood slime manifested from Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like the house is almost like a psychic,
Conduit.
not yeah, like a I was gonna say vampire, but it's like it's feeding off of the fears and guilt and memories and everything else. Um, yeah, I feel like that's why the movie's called House. That's why the house is kind of the villain in the movie.
Well, going back to just an observation I made, going back to the scene on the porch when he's cleaning the gun, the two police officers that get out, the first guy, he was in 21 Jump Street, and he was also Mulder's first contact in, was his
Deep
first
Throat.
or second contact in, no, his second contact in the X-Files.
He's Deep Throat in the X-Files, yeah.
Yep. And the second cop was in the series In the Heat of the Night.
Yeah, that's Alan Autry.
Yep. I had to, as I was watching it, I'm like, I know this guy's voice. I know who this is. Who is this guy? And I had to end up looking him up. But I love how the first
black guy, Stephen Williams, he was in 21 Jump Street. He was in Missing in Action 2.
Yep.
He was in Friday the 13th, part
Yep, he was
6, I believe.
Jason Goes to Hell.
Well, yeah, that one. And yeah, he's done a ton of stuff. Really good actor.
And I just thought it was weird where you think he's going to ask him for an autograph, but can I use your bathroom?
No, I want to use your bathroom.
And the whole them all sitting, and of course George Wendt just invites himself in again. Yeah, coffee would be great.
Well,
So-
yeah, I love when the cops looking at the paintings and Roger's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm looking at this stupid shit on the wall," like. Like, what kind of cops are these? And when he asks them if they want coffee and they're like about to leave and they're like, yeah, we'll take some coffee. It's like,
You got any donuts
what
too?
cop is going to be like, yeah, we're working, but yeah, let's have some fucking coffee. Let's hang out with this dude for a little bit.
Right. And the whole thing with the shotgun shells on the floor when he picks up the spoon. Oh, and to his credit, Norm tries to help him out. He sees it, he tries to cover for him. Oh no, I'll take those. Well, I thought you said it wasn't loaded. Well, who doesn't have a gun and isn't loaded every once in a while? And I love his response. Well, I wouldn't recommend you cleaning a loaded gun, but that's okay. We'll see ourselves out.
Yeah, that's fine. We're gonna go grab some donuts now.
So let's see here. So okay, that, and we established the hag, and he kills her. And I love when he's moving the hag, the bulk of her. He's all wrapped up. It's like a Dexter moment. She's all wrapped up in fucking plastic, and so they show him burying the head, and then he goes back and he starts dragging the body down to bury the bulk of it in the backyard. And there's the neighbor swimming in the pool. So what? She didn't notice him burying the fucking head 5 minutes before?
No, of course not.
She was too busy being sexy.
I get. And
when you're that sexy, you're just, blind to the goings on of the universe.
I guess so. and he had that thing tied up really well. I have a hard time believing that hand would have gotten out. He's trying to hit on her but he's stepping on this nasty looking fucking hand on the ground. And I talk about uncomfortable when it goes to touch her foot and he steps on it, and you see he grabs her shoulder and he pulls her in to talk to her. That isn't creepy, no way. Yeah, I'm just gonna pull you in and hi, how you doing?
So, and two, that was like a really creepy ghoul.
Yeah.
And not only that, so how clean was that ghoul that she couldn't smell the dead corpse?
Oh, right.
Yeah, she that bag probably smelled like a turtle tank, and she's just all like, whatever, doobly doo, I'm gonna hit on you some more.
But he doesn't, he like doesn't even question like she might be a ghoul. He's just like, oh hey.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, hey, sexy.
He
Run
already
away,
killed-
you're evil and all.
yeah, he's burying the body of a ghoul that totally shocked him by presenting itself initially as his ex-wife. How did he not think that was what was coming out of his pool?
Right.
Mhm.
And
The pool where his son disappeared. But
A guy that has PTSD, who's already, easily triggered. How did her being there at all not flip him the fuck out?
right.
Mhm.
And
That's the power of beautiful women and dumb men.
Yeah.
and who in the fuck just, oh yeah, your aunt was cool with this. I'll just go swimming. Really? Okay. I mean, because the guy even said earlier we had to clean the pool. We cleaned the pool up. So in the time period between when the aunt died and now, was she, I'm assuming the pool was like gunky. So she just now decided, oh, it's clean again. I'll just go for a swim.
That's a good point. I didn't catch that, but yeah, he totally says we had to clean the pool up. So that could have been a great, I felt like her and Norm both had this kind of subterfuge where they could have been evil or they could have been monsters or whatever.
Right.
And they kind of sandbag you a little bit where it's like, because some of the creepy things that Norm does he could have just all of a sudden been like, blah, like I'm a monster now. And she could have done the same thing. So her saying that easily could have been like wait a minute. Didn't the realtor said they had to clean the pool? Uh-oh, she's a monster. Like I feel like there were a lot of breadcrumb trails let off that didn't really go anywhere. Unfortunately, but
And then we get to one of my favorite scenes in the movie after she leaves. He grabs the axe and you see all these little holes through the whole fucking backyard with pieces of this thing. And the look on his, it's what's behind you, Art, that whole look on his face. I'm going to have to cut her up into pieces and bury her in the backyard. Cause no one will think to look at these, nonchalant little holes of dirt in the backyard. And so he cuts her up, buries her, gets back upstairs, and if I'm thinking right, he goes to lay down, right? And the look on his face in the bathroom, it's just what a day. I just had to cut up my ex-wife and bury her in the fucking backyard.
And then again, doesn't immediately she show up all dressed up with her son pretty much after all of that?
not long after, yeah.
Yeah. Because
Like, yeah, it was great meeting you earlier. Will you
watch my
babysit
kid
my son and give him a fucking bath? Like while I go get fucking dogged out.
Well, I get my 80s hookup on. Yeah.
No, I did notice the kid even says it. He has a Buzz-Off figure, a vintage Buzz-Off figure.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And did you notice he's playing with a battle armor Skeletor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Only us toy geeks would notice shit like that, but
Yep. Two He-Man characters. Yes.
I
Okay, but so I need to point this out. You notice how he's crying. He starts crying. He's crying because the other guy's writing and he's crying and all upset.
Right.
Through this, he's crying. But then when he is kidnapped, the kid is silent, just like, okay, I'm going to be kidnapped, whatever.
Right,
That doesn't upset him at all. Nor does he tell his mom that anything.
He was oddly sedate during that whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, you did catch the line when he's crying on the floor. He's like, do you want Buzz-Off? Or do you want to play with it? Do you want some other toys? Or like a plastic bag?
Yeah, I got that plastic bag, maybe. Oh my gosh.
Maybe the reason he got sleepy is maybe he slipped a Mickey fin in his milk. And that, oh, you got sleepy eyes now. I'll put him to bed so I don't have to deal with him.
He did have the Valium. I mean,
Yep. Damn, this movie just took a dark turn.
well, and that's the thing with kids in movies too, is it always sticks out to me when I see a kid that really pulls off some quality acting, and is reacting to what's happening in the scene really well. When you look at the little boy in Cujo,
Mhm.
I don't think I've ever seen a more terrified kid on film than that little kid. And I mean, and he knows it's a movie. He knows it's a guy in a dog suit doing all that, but that kid was selling it. A lot of times it's the latter that you end up with these kids, like, the babysitter kid in this movie where he's like, whatever.
Right.
He's just happy to be there. Like, oh, I get these free He-Man figures for being in this movie. Cool. Like, and he doesn't really inform, he's not reacting to what's going on. They're just like, okay, yeah, so these things right here are going to pull you up the chimney. All right, don't say anything.
And there was, I love this scene too, because the kid's now missing. And so he starts looking for him, and you see one for a hot second before it closes the door upstairs. These two things are the creepiest looking fuck. I don't know what the fuck they're
Oh yeah,
supposed
their
to
little
be.
smile. Yeah, their exaggerated face. Oh.
In fact,
Yeah.
one of them was played by I can never pronounce his last name. Felix, was it Silva?
Scylla, yeah.
Who was Tweaky in Buck Rogers.
I've actually met him. Really, really nice. I mean, he passed away last year. Really nice guy.
That's cool.
Oh yeah, Felix Sela.
Yep.
The little critter.
And they're pulling him up the fucking chimney, and he's fighting with it. That whole scene just made me laugh because if you notice, he's trying to use his legs. He's hooking himself on the edge of the fireplace so they don't pull him up. And oh no, let's spread the legs out of it. Nope, let's use the knees. Nope, and back and forth until they finally fall down. And that was the cleanest chimney I've ever seen.
That was a big chimney too, like
Yes.
big.
Yes.
That was a big Santa Claus chimney.
How
And
did it not pull that kid apart?
I expected that, Art. I was waiting on it. I was like, oh my God, they're going to pull this kid in half. Like,
right.
Yeah, at
like,
least
it's going to be like, oh, sorry, I broke your kid.
dislocate his shoulders, fuck up his spine, something.
Right. His
And the kid's just
ankles.
like, okay, like not a freaking peep.
Yeah, nonplussed by the potato demon kids that are pulling him up the chimney.
Yeah, Wish's garbage pail kids.
Garbage pail kids, if you got them from
Ugh.
Wish. Let me pause right here for a second. I will be right back. Sorry about this. Continue on. I'll be right back. Sorry.
Actually, if you can pause, that would be great because I got to use the potty.
Do you mind?
Yeah.
Matt, do you care?
No, that's fine.
All right,
Fine
I'll
with
be
me.
right back. Sorry.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And some of them have Coleco Rambo weapons because they look way better.
Dude, you're going to have to give me a tour of your collection, man. I see little bits and pieces of it. It's got me intrigued.
It won't take too long. I've literally only got 2 IKEA Detolf cases on each side of my TV. And then these guys, and then I've got a little movie case out in my living room. So
Cool.
yeah, I keep it small.
I would show you, but my basement is absolutely fucked. I have to like hardcore straighten up down here. So, but I got my grandma's old curio cabinet. I moved it upstairs, and I'm going to move the bulk of my collection upstairs. My ex-wife would never let me display anything in the house, but Stace will. So she's like, yeah, you're going to display it. You were working on this, display it. I'm like, okay. So,
Feel your pain. I've been there before. I used to have a huge collection, and it got to the point where there was this ton of stuff that I couldn't display and enjoy. It was like this like shameful thing that I had to like hide in Tupperware bins. And I was just like, I like to keep it. It's almost like once things start growing outside the case where I have too much stuff, then it's time to get rid of some of it. So it keeps it manageable.
well, you figured for Christmas last year, Stace got me a framed painting of Skeletor, which hangs in the kitchen.
That's pretty rad.
So, all right. So where were we? We were discussing the kid, right? The
Kid in the garbage pail kids.
yes. is being pulled up the fucking chimney. And I did a pause because for a split second you see their faces when they're in the chimney. I paused it just to take a look. They're fucking creepy looking.
Oh yeah.
So
I don't think we saw enough of them. I think those were some of the strongest like evil characters in the movie, and they were that and the closet monster. I feel like you see them so kind
quickly,
of starkly and briefly that they don't linger on them. That's a shame.
True, because I completely forgot about them until I watched it again last night. I'm like, oh yeah. I remembered all the other characters.
Well, the closet monster looked like it was straight out of Hellraiser.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, you definitely get that Hellraiser vibe out of the thing.
But Hellraiser hadn't been made yet.
No, it didn't come out till '87. But and then you get, and since we're talking to monsters, I'm sorry that when he goes into the bathroom cabinet and starts rappelling down into the darkness, that thing they have flying around it looks like it's something out of Doom. It looks like they took a Doom monster and decided to and the fact that it uses
Actually,
go ahead. The fact that it
it
uses
reminded
the
me
shotgun.
of wasn't that like the same type of thing that was in Army of Darkness?
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was.
It also looked like a graphic that was on a skateboard I used to have.
But let's see here. So
Yeah, that thing was goofy, and it like twirls the shotgun when it takes it away from him, and
oh, I know it. Let me back up for a second to when he's watching the kid. I noticed something. So they're sitting on that settee or whatever before he gets taken, and they're watching TV for a minute, and he's watching his ex-wife's soap opera. If you listen closely to earlier on when Norm steals the phone book, he says, "Oh, what's the name of your wife's show? Resort. It comes on tonight at 10 o'clock." As he's walking out the door. And the first of all, the dialogue is fucking inane. It is so bad that the dialogue, but I think they're doing a spoof off of an actual show at the time. Do anyone remember the show Hotel?
I was about to say that's a spoof of Hotel
Because they called it Resort. It's so they're spoofing Hotel. I never noticed that, but so
I will say too that Roger, the character, and William Catt is really good with that kid once things kind of settle down.
yes,
I thought it was kind of sweet. Almost him kind of reconciling, like he's lost his son, but it's like it's almost like he's trying to regain that connection with his son through this kid.
yeah. I felt especially in the bath scene when they start splashing each other and whatnot. I got that too. But
yeah,
Art,
It
I'm
doesn't
with
make
you.
it any less creepy that a stranger is bathing somebody's kid.
Oh, it's super creepy, yeah. But
Yeah, I'm in the
it's
fact,
the sweetest creepy thing I've ever seen.
and it's totally not weird that the mom, oh yeah, give him a bath. I just met you 10 minutes ago, but
Yeah.
Anyways,
here's some new clothes for him too. Like all of that is just no.
some pajamas and his favorite blankie.
He likes to be tickled here.
Oh, no.
Out of all of them, she's the most. Should I say it's sus? I mean, she shows up half naked in a pool, then and does not notice him at all burying the stinky monster. And then she shows up with her kid. Give him a bath. Here you go. I got things to do. I mean,
she might be the biggest monster in this movie, actually.
I know.
Let's face it, man. Let's face it. She wanted some dick. Okay, this is why she dropped him off. It was a last minute booty call. And anyways,
She probably
Well, she
met the
was
guy
totally-
at the VHS dating service.
oh God.
It's one of my favorite unearthed video clips on Facebook is the VHS dating thing.
There's a couple of them out there too, and they're all bad.
Oh, they're pure gold.
I can anyways, so okay.
Come on, get back up here. Come here.
Well, I feel like she was feeling Roger in that sweater because she could see his clavicle and and his xiphoid process
Right.
and the lower pectorals. And then but she probably got the call from Randy down at the the beeper store. She had to run off and get her dick appointment.
So now we have George Wendt coming back over because he's going to help out Roger, right? And he tells him, there's this giant raccoon in the fucking closet, and we're going to shoot it with a harpoon gun and reel it in. Now, if you notice, he has a huge fishing rod with the mount it's bolted to the floor, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And it comes in, he shoots it, and it wraps around his foot, and he gets pulled into the closet. My question is, why did he take that rod out of the holder? There's no way he could have held that thing himself. He had a better chance of reeling it in had he left it in that holder.
Yeah, that was probably a panic move.
Mm-hmm. So of course the thing snaps, and we see Roger now back in Vietnam.
Well, I don't want to skip over this.
No, go ahead.
I feel like Norm's reaction is gold in that moment, and that's the first time that anybody other than Roger has reacted to one of these things.
Or is it even seen any of these things?
Other than the kid and the potato kids or whatever, but he seems really.
But that kid didn't react. It's like it didn't even happen.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
that's
he
the
didn't
thing.
even
It's like
care. He was like, eh. So that doesn't count. I feel like George reacting to that and being like, fuck, like that's the first time that it's like, okay, wait. So he's not imagining all these things. That's where it kind of splits to where it becomes a straightforward monster movie and a haunted house movie where, okay, these things are actually happening to him because Norm just saw it. And Norm just saw him get sucked into the thing. So like, that makes it real, even though he gets drunk and drinks it away. And that makes him process that where it's like, oh yeah, whatever, which I thought was a little bit lazy, but that was just so that they didn't have to completely involve him going forward with the rest of the film.
Right, because he's essentially passed out on his couch.
Yeah, well, I mean, he had half a bottle of Jack Daniels too. So he basically drank himself to sleep. And I feel like they did that as a mechanism to where it's like, oh, wow. So he either forgot that from being drunk or he thinks that he imagined it.
I have another theory, though. I think he died and went to hell and woke up in Cheers.
Well, oddly enough, Cliff from Cheers is in the sequel.
Exactly.
Yep.
So it's like, I feel like that's what they do when they're not at the bar drinking is they have these like ridiculous fucking adventures.
Or the Cheers is actually hell. And that's where they end up after going into these houses.
It could be. Ted Danson is the devil.
Yep. Well, that's like when Bobby dies in Dallas. This is kind of totally off the subject. Bobby dies, he ends up in Step by Step with the same fucking nephew.
Yeah. That's true.
Jesus, dude. Wow.
Step by Step is also hell.
That's a deep cut.
It's one of the 9 rings.
Yeah.
So let me see here. So am I wrong here? No. He goes. This is when he goes back to Vietnam. Am I think? Yeah. Wait a minute. Am I wrong here?
Yeah, he goes back to Vietnam after getting drugged through the closet.
Right. And
that's where he relives
the thing with Ben.
Yep. Yeah, they're about to go on patrol, and him and Ben take point, and Ben gets injured and shot up,
and begs him to kill him.
Yeah, and he won't. And this is when he as they're dragging him away, he's like, "I'll get you for this. If it's the last thing I do, I'll get you for this." And
I feel like both of those actors tried to sell that scene heavily dramatically and they just didn't earn it. Like they didn't give them enough time to really, because they're both like, crying and having these like, that's heavy drama for an actor, is to have a scene like that where it's like, kill me, like, he's begging for him to kill him so that he doesn't, have to go through this atrocity. And he's like struggling with it because that's his friend. And it's like,
Right.
I can't.
But certainly no Forrest and Bubba.
Yeah, exactly. But they don't earn it. Like it's kind of jammed in there, and it's like you're supposed to feel for Roger's character, but it just happens so fast that it's kind of it's not laughable, but it's almost like that mixed with the horrible Vietnam set. It could have been much better had they given it more attention.
And this, you're right, because
That's a heavy scene. I mean,
it is, and it just, I don't want to say it falls flat, but this is like the pivotal moment of the entire story, because the whole reason why his kid's missing and everything else that happened to him is because, well, spoiler alert, Big Ben kidnaps his kid.
Yep.
And this is the impetus of that happening, and it plays out so quick. It's like, boom, it's done, and then he runs back through the door back into the house.
It sets up so much consequence of him making that decision not to kill him, but they don't really, like I said, they didn't earn it because they didn't really establish. They kind of established that Ben was kind of a prick and like put the snake in his cigarette pouch or whatever,
right?
And that he was kind of a bully and kind of an asshole. So it's not like they were, blood brothers and oh yeah, here's a picture of my girl back home and I'm just a really good guy. I mean, they didn't kind of earn it with that, and they didn't show them being like having that camaraderie. So it just like you said, it falls flat. It hits on the surface because it's like, oh well, there's really not much to this because the guy was kind of an asshole anyway. So he shouldn't have that big struggle of like, no, I can't kill you because I love you so much, man. It's just not there.
When you first see Ben in the first shot, you see him Roger's sleeping and he's standing next to him having a smoke when his LT wakes him up. And I think they tried to establish that they were good friends in this particular scene, but it falls flat.
Yeah.
So,
well, I feel like it falls flat on the page too. I don't blame the actors. I think it was kind of poorly written where, if you're going to establish a camaraderie with two soldiers, I just don't feel like that's the way to do it.
Right.
I feel like there's a much better, like, you can have a few bars in a script where it's like, okay, yeah, these guys give a shit about each other, and that they just didn't do it with that.
So moving forward here, resort. He comes back out of the closet. I'm trying to see here.
George went home.
Yep, he takes him home. This is where we established that he's a very small apartment. The two of them trying to fit through that hallway. Now, at least he was nice enough to, cover him up with a blanket and leaves. So then he comes back and he goes into the. Wait a minute here. At what point, I'm missing something. At what point he makes the connection with the painting in the garage? He's looking at the painting and remember there's like a piece of cloth on the left side of the painting. And when he pulls it down, he sees his son.
He's got to go through the mirror.
Right. He sees his son in the mirror of the bathroom.
That's right.
So he goes up and he opens it, nothing there. And does he throw something to break the glass?
Yeah, I thought it was like one of those trophies.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this is where essentially Cthulhu comes out of the fucking the hole and tries to pull him in. He's got the thing with the tentacles and the hands, and they're trying to pull him in. I have a hard time when he reaches over and grabs that fucking straight razor off the back of the toilet. I'm sorry, he would have cut the fuck out of his hands trying to open that thing. And then as he's flailing around trying to cut up the tentacles, he would have gotten cut several times here. Or am I looking at this too hard?
Oh, yeah, I think so. Yeah,
So-
I think that's very feasible.
So then he realizes this is how I got to get my kid. So he takes some clothesline, wraps it around the toilet, and of all the things, the toilet. I'm no plumber, but I don't think a toilet would have held his weight rappelling down into a void. I don't know. Maybe
if you assume that he weighed about what 150, 165 pounds.
about that.
Yeah.
I could see that. I mean, if it's bolted to the floor, I mean, if you look at how your toilet's mounted to the floor, even those older ones, yeah, I could see it holding him. Because
Well,
you got the weight of the toilet. Not only that, it's bolted to the floor. He doesn't weigh a whole lot.
Right.
I mean, he's
And-
not a very large man.
No.
No.
And I do like the fact that he was able to use the string to make a sling for a shotgun that showed foresight. And here's where he's lowering himself into the void, and we get the monster from Doom. Out of all the monsters in this movie, I think this is the cheesiest looking one.
It's
Claymation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's stop animation or whatever. And I love how it grabs the gun from him and is accurate enough shot to shoot the fucking rope and has him fall down into the water.
Well, it is a shotgun, but still, yeah.
Right. So he splashes in the water. He's now back in Vietnam where he sees his son in a cage. And I think they did a really good job here establishing I guess, how would I put this? The relief, I guess, of yes, my son's okay. Here he is. He's actually in front of me. And
Which is odd because, when he saw his wife in front of him, she turned into a deadite. I mean, he didn't.
I kind of expected that too. I was like, oh, this is another trick. His kid's really like a zombie beaver or something.
He's a zombiever.
Zombie. So he gets the kid out, and we hear gunfire, and we hear Big Ben, but we don't see him yet. And he jumps into the water with the kid, and Ben has got to be the worst fucking shot on earth if he's missing him with an M60 like that.
Well, he has been dead a while.
Yeah, this is true, but
He's got that one eyeball that's kind of hanging out of his head too. So he's
So he's-
one-eyeing it.
oh, gee. So he's swimming around, and he comes up in the pool, which I thought was an interesting coincidence. He emerges in the pool. Now it goes back inside, and then now I don't remember. Does Ben show up through the front door, or is he just in the house?
He shows up at the front door when him and his son are leaving
That's right.
or trying to get out of the house.
Now you're right, Matt. Where the costume first, by the way, Richard Mole was not wearing that costume. He was
Yeah,
a
so it's a
totally
different
different actor.
Yep.
But as dated as it looks, it's still cool looking.
Oh, yeah.
It's a neat looking.
The aesthetic of it is really nice. And I remember being just terrified of him when I was a kid. It just didn't age well. Because I mean, especially with the higher definitions that we see now, you can see the mouth moving, and
Mhm.
it just looks like you can kind of see the stretch of the latex as he's saying stuff. It's not as effective as it was, when I was a kid.
Right. And the other thing I noticed maybe I'm just too picky here, but every time we see Ben when he's alive, on his helmet, he has two bones that are crossed and a skull on top of the helmet. But when he comes back from the dead, they're gone.
Yeah.
That annoyed me. If doing it enough to establish that this has been dead, you should at least get the fucking helmet right. Out of anything else, at least get the helmet right. Okay, I get that his uniform's in tatters. Okay, fine. Even his boots are in tatters, but at least get the helmet right. Good.
Well,
And-
did you see the like his exposed guts
Yeah.
in the suit or whatever? I
Mhm.
felt like that was kind of a thing where like they they kept him alive for 2 weeks, but they probably like tore him open, and I feel like they didn't explain it, because all he says to Roger is they didn't kill me for 2 weeks.
Yeah, they tortured me for 2 weeks.
Yeah, but I feel like they could have gotten really in depth with that.
What's
Kind of
crazy though is
explain.
how did he survive 2 weeks? Because didn't he take like 5 or 6 rounds to the chest?
Oh
Right.
yeah, he got duped up. Yeah, they peppered him with when he got shot.
And those are 7.62 rounds. Those are blowing some
Yeah.
nice holes through him. So
Yeah, that's what I couldn't understand. Is like how did he survive 2 weeks to be tortured, taking that many rounds in the chest?
I don't know, man. It's like that scene from the Kentucky Fried Movie where the dude cuts his head off and he's like, now take him to be tortured.
It's
But
only a flesh wound. He's Big Ben. He can take 8 or 9 shots. It's fine.
so
So he went to hell and he came back into night court.
Yeah, his hell is being a bailiff.
Yep.
and not a very
Ever.
smart one too. He lost some gray matter in the process. So here's where we start seeing Ben in the house. I mean, he's chasing him through the whole scene. Every time he turns around, there's Ben. I mean, now I do like he gets pissed off and he starts beating his ass on the flight of stairs going up to the second floor. And he tells his Jimmy, get out of the house, you got to find help. And he gets up to the second floor, and the whole thing with the window. In fact, for the longest time, if I remember correctly, the scene, the shot of Ben looking out the window, wasn't that a cover or something for one of the DVD or the movie or whatever? Because I know I've seen that before. That shot of dead Ben looking out the window.
I thought it was on the back of the VHS.
That
It's
could
on the
be.
back of the VHS box. Yep.
That's why. Okay. And granted, he does say one of my favorite lines in the whole movie. He goes, I'm finally back from the dead, and I'm out of ammunition. He just throws the gun down. I'm like, okay. So
I like
yeah.
when he hacks up the door and he's looking through it, and it's totally a Shining moment.
Yes.
Here's Johnny.
here's
It
Ben.
makes you wonder about the rules of the afterlife here. It's like he's a ghost, but he has limited ammo.
Yeah. How does that happen?
Yeah, shouldn't he have like unlimited, ghost rounds,
You would think
ghost bullets?
I mean, hey, yeah.
But it's
In
great.
fact, bullets are
For
expensive.
Walking Dead, doesn't that, establish that there are no limits?
Exactly.
Yeah, but his grenade works.
Yeah.
right after being, it's probably been in water and anyways, but
It's a ghost grenade.
so as he's chasing him around the house, I do like, he goes up onto the roof and he comes back down from the attic. And the part that really blew my mind is when he goes in the kitchen. He he steps into the kitchen, and the whole house itself is on the edge of a cliff.
That was one of my favorite shots in the movie, actually.
And he's hanging there.
Yep.
And now I find it really implausible that he's able to make a lasso out of his belt with one hand while hanging there and have it work first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll let that slide.
No, see, that's passable only because he's already established that that in the house, his son or another child could get taken, but he tells his kid to go off by himself. and find help. That's like any other horror movie when they say, let's split up.
Yeah.
Or yeah, there's a psycho fucking killer running around. Let's go into a room and not turn on a light. But
Yeah, I thought that was weird too, where it's like, wait, I mean, how do you know if he's not gonna open the door and then end up, in another dimension that now you got to go find him again?
right.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that was kind of stupid.
So, and now I do like how when he lassos Ben and he flings him off. If you watch, when he falls, he actually hits water.
Yeah.
So when they did that shot, I'm guessing they probably had a dummy or something and actually tossed it off a cliff, and they merged the two shots together. That I was actually really impressed with.
I thought that was one of the most impressive shots in the whole movie. I was like, wow, that feels like out of place in this movie with some of the other quaint, sets and things like that.
It does. It's totally unexpected.
Because when you compare that to the Vietnam set, it's like, this is in the same movie. And it just doesn't, it was jarring.
So he pulls himself up, and this is where I think Ben comes in through a window, because he always seems to reappear. He's like this, he's like the monster in Scooby-Doo. He turns around and boom, there he is. But he's got his kid and he's got a knife to him. And he's like, you have a choice. I'm either going to kill your kid or you're going to kill yourself, which is interesting. It's a very interesting choice, I suppose. But this is where, Rogers, he realizes he's not afraid of him anymore. He even says it. I'm not afraid of it, because he goes to cut. Doesn't he try to cut his hand off and it doesn't work?
It did for like a second, and then he realized that he wasn't. It was just a ghost. Ghosts can't hurt you. Ghosts aren't real,
right?
And then his hands magically healed.
Well, I feel like him asking Roger to kill himself or to kill his kid, that was kind of like a tip of the hat that Ben didn't really have any power. It was like, I'm going to try to trick you into doing this because I can't do this. I can't kill you. I can't kill the kid, or else he would have done it. So it's almost like he showed his hand, and then that's when Roger's like, that's when he finally gets it, and he's like, wait a minute. No, all I have to do is just not be afraid of you and not believe in you.
Right. It goes back to what the aunt said. The house tricked me.
Yep.
So
and it's like a little kid. It's like a little kid thinking that a monster's in there and under their bed, and they have to convince themselves that they're not afraid, and then it's not there.
And this is where, of course, he's like, no, you're not. And for as evil as Ben's supposed to be, he's kind of passive, because he just grabs the kid, or he grabs his son away from him, grabs the fucking grenade, pulls the pin with his teeth, and shoves it up into his rib cage. And Ben's just kind of letting him do it. He doesn't even attempt to fight back. And this is where, I'm going to get you for this. And he explodes. The fire comes up, and of course, the mom pulls up in the cab.
Did you catch the number on the cab?
No,
not the phone number, but the cab number.
No,
401, which is also the hull number of Titanic. Which I thought that was kind of weird and meta, and it could have been an accident, but
it's interesting.
That's deep. Yeah.
Yeah, I never knew that. So of course, there's the mom standing there, and they're reunited. And the way this movie ends, it's just real quick, boom, the end. He's standing on the porch. He has his family back and his kid back. Boom, end, roll credits.
And they're all smiles.
Right.
Yay, we did it.
It's almost like the writers are like, I don't know how to end this. Let's just fucking end it here.
So, basically, yeah. It was like a long lead up, then that boom, and then everything's great. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a little abrupt. But, it's I feel like they didn't really have anywhere to go. I feel like they ran out of gas, and probably ran out of budget. Because where do you go from there?
Right. Now, when I do think though, maybe it's just the dialogue, but when Ben says, I'll get you for this, were they trying to set up maybe a possible sequel with Ben?
It
Probably.
seems like it, but
Well, I know
Obviously, that didn't
they
happen.
shot part 2 almost concurrently with this. They shot it right after.
yeah, what I always thought was weird though is that the house in the second film was a different house
Yeah.
with its own backstory.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen House 4, which is like actually has him in it again, right? Reprising his role.
Yep, House 4 kind of continues on. I've never seen it all the way. I've seen chunks of it, but it kind of continues on with this.
Mhm.
But
House 3 and House 4, I've never seen. I know Lance Henriksen is in one. Is he in the fourth? I think.
I think so.
I think he's in the fourth.
I don't
yeah.
know. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but there's a YouTuber, Minty's Comic Reviews. He does a good review of all 4 House films. If you're interested, go back and check out his, because he kind of goes over all of them. So
Nice. Yeah, I prefer House 2 to this one. Honestly, I like this one. It's fun, but I think the identity crisis that this movie has, because the tone is kind of all over the place.
mhm.
Yeah, it is.
The comedy is very Abbott and Costello, very Evil Dead, very like slapstick, and the horror parts aren't really scary. So it kind of wants to do a few different things, and it doesn't do any of them particularly well. But it all adds up to an enjoyable movie.
Right.
Even with its faults. I think part 2 embraces the zany a little bit more.
And it's more of an adventure.
Yeah.
It's nice. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, you're 100% right. It's very adventurous, and it kind of opens that whole other dimensional idea up more instead of just Vietnam and the house.
Right.
So there's ancient Mayans, and there's dinosaur people, and a pterodactyl, and it has that going on for it.
And it answers its questions. This one kind of left like, what? Yeah.
Yeah, it's more aware of itself than this movie, I think. And also part 2, not that we're talking about that one fully, but the relationship between grandpa or Uncle Jesse or Grandpa Jesse and the Jesse character is really, really nice, and it's
Right.
really sweet. And there's a heartfelt moment where, like, when they're saying goodbye or whatever, where it's like, hey, I got to meet my great grandson,
Right.
and party with him, and I feel like the bad guy in that one, the Slim or
Yeah, Slim.
Slim,
Yeah.
I feel like he is 5 times more terrifying than Big Ben ever was.
Oh yeah.
He's got the better, the scarier face makeup and the voice and everything, just that heavy, like.
Now I'm trying to remember, that voice was from a cartoon.
That was Frank Welker.
Yep.
Doing
Thank you.
Dr. Claw.
Yep, that's it.
Megatron.
Megatron. That's his Dr. Claw devil voice. I can do it, but I'm not going to do it now because it'll shred my
Yeah, don't do
vocal
that.
cords.
Well, I do know, I did feel that House 2 at times I think was trying to do too much.
Yeah.
But like I say, we're not there yet. But so, as we usually do, if you were rate this film 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being, the best movie you've ever seen, where does it fall?
I'd give it at least an 8.
Yeah, I would say an 8 or a 9.
Wow.
I enjoyed it. I think that it's one of those movies that you can watch, as I said, 20, 30 years later, and it's still it's nostalgic. It's you can look back and it still holds up, So
I give it a 6. I'm a little bit more. I feel like I feel like the things I like about it, I don't love, but I like. The things that I don't like about it definitely skew that score, because it makes it a little hard to get past. But it's an enjoyable movie. It's a weird one, and it's hard. I think the hardest type of movie to pull off is a horror comedy. Very few movies can actually do that. Shaun of the Dead, Evil Dead, um, American Werewolf in London. Like there's literally a handful of movies that successfully pull it off. I think this falls in that category, but it's definitely not in that. I don't think it's in the same echelon as those movies. I just think it wants to be. I just think it has limitations that keep it from there. But I like it. I feel like this was William Katz's chance to be like a leading man, because he had just come off of Greatest American Hero. He hadn't done a lot of movies before this. I know he was in Butch and Sundance the early years, and he was the boyfriend in Carrie the guy that takes her to the prom, and famously was almost Luke Skywalker.
Yep, I've seen the footage of him, the test footage.
Yeah. Did you see it was him and I think Kurt Russell reading together, and that's a fascinating watch. But he never really got too many big roles after this. I feel like this was kind of his swan song. I mean, he's done other things, but he never had that big breakout.
Yep, the B movie.
Yeah.
Like in the Lifetime movies and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
And he's best known for Greatest American Hero. That's always going to be his legacy, you know? So,
yeah, isn't that the one that he hates the most?
Probably.
so, you know, for myself, I would rate this an 8. I would 8.5. No, 7.5, 8. I'm with you, Matt. It doesn't seem to know where it's going, but it was made as a low budget, quickie horror movie. I don't think they put a lot of I was starting to watch the audio commentary on the Blu-ray. I didn't, because it was too distracting when I was trying to take notes last night. But from what I was reading, the Sean S. Cunningham, when he got the script, he liked it. Or no, I'm sorry, the Stephen Miner got the script, and he's like, I like this. Let me take it to Sean and see if we can get this made real quick, because this looks like an interesting movie. Yep. And 1, 2, 3, it was real quick and dirty. In fact, he even says in the opening shot when they're tracking through the backyard, he says, you know, I asked for a crane and I actually got it. I wasn't expecting to get a crane to do this shot. But yeah, I definitely rated a solid 8.
Well, and Steve Miner, the director, he did some really solid. I mean, he's a solid director. He did the 2 Friday the 13th movies, 2 and 3. He did this. A year later, he did Soul Man.
Yep.
He did C. Thomas Howell, which, you know, despite its social connotations, is actually a pretty funny movie, and very progressive. Most people don't realize that when they haven't seen it. It's a very pro-Black movie. He did Warlock.
Yep, I love Warlock.
Which is another underrated one. It's funny. Most of the problems I have with that movie is what kind of bugs me about this one too, is the wardrobe choices. Because Lawyer Singer has the stupidest haircut in history in that movie.
Yeah, but Julian Sands looks awesome. Come on now.
Oh, he was fantastic. And the werewolf hunter guy, the witch hunter character was
Renfield,
awesome.
or not Renfield. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but he did Forever Young, did Big Bully. I mean, he's had a fairly good career. Halloween H2O, which sucked, but he did Lake Placid, which I also love. So yeah, he's had a really kind of all over the place, done a lot of TV. So when I saw that name, I was like, wait a minute, I've seen stuff that this guy's done. And he's not a household name, but he did a fairly good job with this one. It's just that, like I said, I feel like what bothers me the most about this movie and why I give it a 6 is that I feel like there's a better movie just hidden inside of it. And that was the frustrating part for me, is once I kind of realized that, I was like, the movie I'm seeing isn't the movie I want to see. But it definitely, I mean, it stands apart from a lot of movies of that era.
Mhm.
And it could have very easily, especially with a budget that low, gone the completely other way and just been a complete mess. Which happens more often than not, it seems. So I don't hate it, but
So is this a must watch?
Yeah.
I think everybody should see it at least once.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely.
So do I. It's one of those weirdly, maybe not iconic status, but it's firmly rooted in the mid 80s that a horror flick that you should see at least once because it's so unique.
Yeah.
Because
I think if you're a horror fan, you have to see this one. It's got that pedigree.
right.
Yep.
Did any of you get like, say, talk about, because I was telling, so what are you doing? Oh, I'm watching House, the movie. Oh, I didn't know he made a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got that. I mentioned to someone I was doing. Oh, you're doing the series? No, I'm not doing the series. It's a horror movie. What? Oh, never mind. Just never mind.
Yeah, it's like a.
I feel like is that why they called it House MD, even though nobody calls it that?
To separate
I've
it
seen-
from.
Yeah, because I've seen House, and I feel like when that show was on, everybody just called it House. But
They
then
did.
when you see it, it's like House MD.
Yeah, well, maybe to establish that it was a medical show
Yeah,
and not
instead of-
like House Hunters or something.
Yeah,
True, yeah, because there's so many, yeah.
that makes sense.
So, anything else we want to touch up on this?
No, I think
So we're
unless
good.
we want to talk about that sweater some more.
Thing's awesome. Damn it! Now I got to find one.
I feel like they should have called this movie "The Problem with Sweaters."
Well, unless there's nothing else, everyone, thank you very much, and we will see you on the next one.
And
This
if
has
you,
been
enjoy
House.
our if you enjoy our videos, please hit like and subscribe. It helps the channel out.
Indeed.
Definitely like and